The love between Jaxson Vane and Aisha wasn't a quiet affair. It was a firestorm fed by ego and excess. To the world, they were royalty. Jaxson, the NBA's most lethal shooting guard, and Aisha, a woman whose influence could move markets. Their days were spent in a blur of private villas in Mykonos and late-night drives through the canyons. Jaxson loved her with a fierce, possessive generosity, culminating in a proposal that stopped the internet, a $400,000 radiant-cut diamond that felt heavy with the promise of a dynasty. But the foundation was cracked. Behind the scenes, the arguments were as loud as the cheers in the arena. Their friends, Luke and Kyle, often had to pull them apart at parties. Just 8 days after the diamond touched her finger, a final, explosive row over a hidden phone shattered the engagement. Aisha walked out, slamming the door of the penthouse, but she didn't leave the ring. She wore it like a trophy of war, a $400,000 reminder that even if she lost the man, she won the prize. Jaxson stared at the empty side of his bed, but he wasn't feeling heartbreak. He was feeling robbed. He called Osmon, a master jeweler known for creating stunt jewelry for celebrities who didn't want to travel with the real thing. "I need a clone," Jaxson said, his voice cold. "Identical. Same weight, same laser-etched serial number on the girdle, but make the stone worthless." While Osmon worked in the shadows, Jaxson began the long con. He reached out to Aisha's inner circle, Annie and Madeline, playing the role of the broken man. He sent them flowers, asking them to check on her. He made sure Juliet, the city's biggest socialite, heard that Jaxson was devastated. When he finally called Aisha, his voice was a masterpiece of vulnerability. "I don't care about the money, Aisha. I just miss my best friend." She fell for the performance, unaware that the script had been written in ice. The reconciliation was a slow burn. For 4 months, Jaxson played the part of the perfect partner. He took her on a reunion tour, appearing at charity events and high-end dinners. Even his teammate John was fooled, watching Jaxson dote on her at courtside. Jaxson had to endure the intimacy, the shared meals, and the "I love yous," all while the ghost ring sat in a velvet pouch in his gym bag, waiting for the switch. Obed, Jackson's head of security, was the only one who knew the truth. He kept the perimeter clear while Jaxson waited for his opening. The tension peaked during a weekend getaway to a mountain estate. Every time Aisha reached for her wine glass, the real diamond caught the light, mocking Jaxson. He needed her to take it off, but she wore it like a second skin. She trusted him again, and that trust was the only key he needed to get close enough to strike. The moment finally came on a quiet Tuesday morning. Aisha had left the ring on the edge of the marble sink while she stepped into a steaming shower. The bathroom was thick with white mist. Jaxson moved with the silence of a predator. His hands, which had gripped basketballs under the pressure of a million eyes, were now steady as a surgeon's. He picked up the heavy, genuine platinum band, the $400,000 asset, and slid the ghost into its place. He didn't even look back. He walked out of the suite, handed a bag to Obed, and drove straight to his lawyer's office. 2 hours later, he sent the text that ended it all. "I realized I don't miss you after all. We're done. Keep the ring." He waited for her to brag on social media about the $500,000 win. When she did, Jaxson posted a single photo of himself holding the GIA certificate for the real diamond. The silence from her end was deafening. The legal battle was the trial of the century in the sports world. Aisha, represented by a high-powered firm, claimed theft by deception. But Jaxson had Andy Hogan, a lawyer whose reputation for winning impossible cases was legendary. The courtroom was a sea of cameras and whispers. Aisha took the stand, her voice trembling as she described the trauma of the switch. But Andy Hogan stood up, adjusting his tie with a predatory grin. He didn't argue about the swap. He argued about the law. "Your Honor," Hogan projected, "an engagement ring is a conditional gift. The condition is marriage. Since the plaintiff broke the engagement after 8 days, she had no legal right to the asset." He then turned to the gallery, revealing that Jaxson had already sold the ring to pay for the very defense they were watching. When the judge hammered the gavel and dismissed the case, Aisha realized she had been outplayed in the longest game of her life. Jaxson Vane walked out of the courthouse, a free man with a $300,000 profit and a lesson for the world: never mistake a player for the game. 1 year later, the air in the Metropolitan Museum was thick with the scent of expensive lilies and even more expensive perfume. It was the night of the Juliet Foundation Gala, the most exclusive event on the social calendar. Jaxson Vane moved through the crowd in a custom midnight blue tuxedo, his presence commanding a circle of admirers, including his teammate John and his ever-watchful shadow, Obed. Jaxson was at peace. The ring affair had faded into a legendary locker room story, and his bank account had long since recovered from Andy Hogan's legal fees. He was sipping a vintage scotch when the crowd parted, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Aisha walked in. She looked stunning in a gown of liquid gold, flanked by Annie and Madeline. Her chin was held high, but the socialite armor was thinner than it used to be. The room went quiet, eyes darting between the man who had pulled the greatest con in sports history and the woman who had fallen for it. They met near the center of the gallery, beneath a massive oil painting of a storm at sea. "Jaxson," she said, her voice like glass, "I surprised you showed your face here." "I own the building tonight, Aisha," Jaxson replied with a lazy, effortless smile. "Hard to hide in your own house." Aisha's eyes dropped to his hand. On his pinky, he wore a new ring, a simple, massive black diamond. She twisted her own hand instinctively, her fingers brushing against the empty space where the $400,000 rock used to sit. She was wearing jewelry tonight, of course, but everyone in the room knew it was likely on loan from a designer. The ghost ring had ruined her credit in the high-end jewelry world. No one wanted to insure a woman who couldn't tell the difference between a diamond and a piece of glass. "You think you won," she whispered, leaning in so the press wouldn't hear. "But everyone knows you're a liar, Jax. You spent 4 months faking a life just for money. That's pathetic." Jaxson didn't flinch. He took a slow sip of his drink and leaned in closer, his voice a low, melodic rumble. "It wasn't about the money, Aisha. I make $400,000 in 2 games. It was about the principle." He glanced over at Andy Hogan, who was across the room, raising a glass in their direction. "You tried to keep a trophy you didn't earn. In my league, if you don't play the full 4 quarters, you don't get the ring." He stepped past her, his shoulder brushing hers just slightly, a final, cold reminder of the closeness they once shared. "Enjoy the party," Jaxson called back without turning around. "I heard the gift bags are great. Keep the contents this time. They're actually real." As he walked away with Obed and Luke, the flashes of the paparazzi exploded, capturing the image of Jaxson Vane moving forward, while Aisha remained frozen in the mist of her own reflection. On the scoreboard of life, Jaxson hadn't just won the game, he had retired the jersey. The end. This is Ink to Voices. Thank you for watching. Kindly subscribe and comment for more amazing stories.